That's the difference between where I don't think there is an appreciation of people in the city. They don't realise the emotional tie that people from the land do have with their properties. Otherwise, there's no way in the world. If you did this in a business sense, there would not be a bloke on the land. You don't make enough out of it to justify hanging around.
Yep. Hello.
And I reckon too, at the end of the day, the people who plant trees believe there is a future. Apart from the fact that it does stop the wind, really do have I think, a great impact just looking around and appreciate your endeavours anyway. You appreciate what you've done. And the sheep do. When our great-grandfather bought the property in 1922, the place was at that stage completely devoid of or virtually devoid of trees. Early in the 1900s, it was suggested that most trees be ring-barked for the benefits of grasses and one thing or another around the base of the trees, and that was recommended and was unfortunately followed fairly stringently. And we've just sown 25 kilometres of trees with the idea of actually putting back into areas which are completely devoid of trees, particularly exposed hilly areas, to re-establish the way that it was 100 years ago. Can you see that going up the side of the hill there? That's what is referred to as a green road. They're actually surveyed roads on the place. They're out in the middle of nowhere, so it's consequently that's the native trees as they were when this place was when Australia was first covered with timber, when all this area around here was covered with timber anyway, at least. And that's why, as a consequence, that's where you get a lot of small animals, things called phascogales, which are a little native mouse, but a carnivore little bugger. He's a great little animal. And what I've tried to do is link up. All of these are fairly close to where where the green roads are, so that the birds can come from. There's 400 acres of scrub there where a lot of birds are, and they now feel, because little birds don't like to be out in the open for too far because the predators get them. However, they can fly along the green roads, and also they can then get into our pine trees and they can come through the pines. So we've now got birds out the back. I've got a backbone going right along north-south through the property. That you can see the windbreak going along there. It goes right up to the far end of the place and right down to this far end of the place, and then I've got all the windbreaks coming off there which hook up with remnants of scrub, so it sort of attracts the birds out into the property as well, which help. Where's the rabbit? And they tend to, I believe, trees in large numbers tend to look after each other as well, as opposed to small clumps of trees like these, where, in an instance where you're getting them underneath what I call a mother tree, we've got a lot of small regrowth, and I think that they're much harder to look after, plus much more costly. If you've locked up your country, because you have to lock up you can't afford to lock up. If you're locked up 1,000 acres, you're locked up $200 or $2 million. If you locked up this paddock here is $400,000 they've got locked up in not 40. How much is 200 acres? 2,000. 200 is 200. It's 2,040. Now it's $400,000. Shit. Yeah, it's just dumb. Well, come on. That's my number one smoocher. One thing I did notice that during the drought, when we did have a bit of rain, the area around the tree lines for probably 4 times the height of the actual tree was still green, because you had the benefit of no wind, so the moisture that had fallen did actually retain, or it was retained in the grass, in the ground anyway, for longer than areas that are exposed to the wind. The time that I realised we needed the windbreaks on the property was, or any sort of a protection for the stock, was when we were actually losing sheep. You'd shear them, they'd go outside. We had no way, apart from bringing them back into the shed, of protecting them. And the only way we could protect them, apart from the shed, was to put up, in my mind, a green shed, and that was in the form of a windbreak. Sheep actually teach their lambs to seek out the windbreaks. And you do see them here. The sheep actually do find the windbreaks to get behind them to protect themselves, because they suddenly realise what they are. I think we increase our lambing percentages because in all of these protected paddocks we put twinning ewes. Any ewe that's has a twin inside it, we'll put them in these paddocks because they're beautifully protected. The twinning lamb is much smaller than a single lamb, and if it's got more protection, the little lamb will survive. It's slowly catchy monkey, because it's not until people actually see what you're doing that they start to appreciate and realise the benefits of what is going on. But running a property is beyond just a monetary return. It's an environmental return as to what you're doing with the place for the long-term benefits of the next generation.